Hello and welcome to the Uneducated PT podcast with me, your host, Carl O'Rourke. The goal of this podcast is to bring on interesting and knowledgeable people from all walks of life, learn a little something from each conversation, and for you, the listener, to learn something from each episode. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press the box below, show some support, and I'll see you on the next episode.
I want to do something, but I don't want to be seen as a failure. So how do I navigate that where I always have an excuse? So yeah.
But you, this is such like a big grand event where everyone knows about it. There's lots of publicity around it.
Yeah.
So, are you not then putting that pressure on yourself to make sure that you do the thing that you said you were going to do rather than half-ass it and fail?
Yeah, so I did do that. I went out and I went on podcasts and I went out and talked to papers and did interviews and all that sort of stuff. But I still wasn't putting in the graft. Like literally, and it's so funny because the guy from Amphibian King, Damien, he gave me a couple of pairs of shoes, but he was kind of like apprehensive about whether or not I was going to be able to achieve it. Like most people were, like most people saw that I was still out drinking.
Did people say that to you, or was it kind of like backhanded things?
No, literally everyone. There was not a person who, apart from my girlfriend, who thought that I was going to achieve it. I would say.
What about you? Did you think you were going to achieve it?
I thought that I was going to be able to do it, but I had given myself the out by not really seriously going and training.
Yeah, because then you had an excuse if you failed.
Yeah, I could be like, oh well, I didn't really, or oh, I was kind of injured or whatever. All those things, and it's only in hindsight. Like hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
But it's like a really, it's like a real pattern for me of everything that I've ever done, whether that was like playing rugby, whether that was like schoolwork or whatever. Like, for example, final year at college, I set myself the goal and I told other people that I was going to do it, which was finishing top of my class. It was getting the best grades that year and getting, top of your class. It's like an award that you get. I got to Christmas, right? I did not miss a day of college, of university, not one day. And then I got to Christmas, got my results, was top of the class, stopped going to college. Because I was like, wait, like I can actually do this, but what if I don't? And then people are like, oh, you failed. So I just stopped going. Now I still achieved what I set out to achieve, but like I've given myself the opportunity and the reason, or I could give myself the excuse if people were looking at it like.
So what if hindsight, you know that about yourself, like, and I know you have challenges coming up, and I don't know if you're able to speak about.
I'm going to speak about them. Yeah.
Okay, Grant. Right. So let's. I was going to leave that till later, but let's go straight into it then. So if hindsight, you know that you're not training to the best of your ability because you're trying to give yourself an excuse in case you fail.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that's going to, then push you to be like, right, I'm going to, go hard at this and that.
Yeah. So again, like I've just been working on myself like the last while. And even after I finished the challenge, right, there was a period after the challenge. So I did the challenge, I went on holidays, I ran the Dublin Marathon, and then from there till January, right, when you do something and then there's nothing else there. And like previously what I would have done is I would have just went straight to drugs, straight drinking. Now I didn't do that. I didn't let myself slip that much, right?
Yeah.
But I still was drinking.
Yeah.
I was still staying out late. I still wasn't doing training, right? And then I got to January. And then January I was like, okay, I'm going to set the challenge of running every day for the year or for as long as I possibly can. And I was doing that. But on the weekends, I was still going out drinking. I was still giving myself the excuse. Then I got injured. And then since the injury, I wasn't able to run. So I had to start going to the gym. And in years gone by, me getting injured would have been like, okay, well, that's a great opportunity for me to just pile on weight and I was just like, I cannot do this again. Like I need to nip this in the bud. So a couple of weeks after that, after being injured, I made the decision to just stop drinking. So I've not drank now in 11 weeks. And I don't see myself ever drinking again. Not that I refrain that. It's not that I don't see myself ever drinking again. I might drink, but it's never going to be the way that it used to be for me.
And is that because you've replaced that now with bigger goals that you're like, okay, that will interrupt?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
before it's like, okay, I could use alcohol as an excuse, but now
Yeah,
you're not going
100%.
to. So is this you like not using an excuse and
Yeah,
trying to go to your capacity?
Like, I've sat down with myself, I've sat down with my girlfriend, and I've said, and I've looked at the future and I've said, what do I want my life to look like? What is it that I want from life? It's like, okay, I want to do challenges to raise awareness for like mental health, or for kids with cancer or kids with like who can't walk. Like, I want to do that, right? I want to be able to go give talks to people about mental health. I want to go into businesses and do that. I want to have a podcast with my girlfriend, Grant. I want to start up a coaching business for running. All of these things are stuff that I want to do. But I don't feel that I can actually sit in front of people and give them advice or tell them about things when I'm in the background being a pisshead.
Yeah.
So, like, we started training for the Portland Marathon there this week. So this is week 1 of training. 16-week block. I turn 28 in 15 weeks time. And then the next week I run the marathon. So like, my next challenge, although I haven't announced the next big challenge, right? My next challenge for me is, by 28 years old, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life. And I don't just mean the best shape of my life physically. I mean the best shape of my life mentally, flexibility, strength, everything. I'm going into my 28 year of life in the best possible way. And from there on, there is no more excuses. There is no more excuses. I'm going full bore at everything. I'm never giving myself an excuse again.
Can you talk about the big one?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can talk about it.
55 to drive, is it?
Drive for 55.
Drive
yeah.
for 55. What's that about?
So this is going to be mammoth. It's huge, and people are going to probably go, it's not possible, and it might not be possible. I might fail, and that's fine. But I'm not going to have an excuse for failure,
which we spoke about. Yeah.
So it's going to be 55 days of attempting to run 100k a day. The goal is to get to 5,000 kilometers, right? There's roughly, from what I can tell, 5,000 people in Ireland on waiting lists to get mental health help, whether that's a therapist, whether that's to go get CBT. There's 5,000 people, and some of them are young people, some of them are older people. So for each one of those 5,000 people, I'm going to run a kilometer. So that's the goal. If I get to 5,500, great. The goal is to get to 500. I've given myself the extra 5 days. If I can keep on going, I'll keep on going. That's the plan.
How are you going to work that, like, logistically, like in terms of where you're going to run, stuff like that? Is that not being...
So that's all in progress. The goal for me would be to run the length of Ireland, the width of Ireland, and the circumference of Ireland.
And what about like sponsorship and stuff like that? What have you thought about with that?
So the company that I work for now, I kind of was asked to do a panel talk recently enough about exercise, fitness and stuff like that. And I brought up the fact that I'd done the 32 challenge, and someone piped up on the call and was like, oh, what are you going to do next? And I was like, managing director sat beside me, another lady sat beside me. I kind of looked at him, and I kind of said it in my interview when I was doing it that I will be doing this. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, I don't really know if I should say this in front of you. And he was like, no, go on. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to ask for unpaid leave and I'm going to go for this. And then after the call, he was like, you don't need unpaid leave. We're going to support you. You're going to do that. So it's pretty sick.
Going back to the 32 Ironmans, and you kind of touched on this a little bit about the gap and like after you finished, what to do next and going on the drink and stuff like that. Have you heard of the gold medal syndrome? Yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask you. Is like, you know, when people complete a big challenge like that, or, you know, achieve their lifelong goal, and then after there's this wave of depression or not knowing what to do next. Did you get any hint of that after?
No,
Okay.
not really, because I'd experienced it already.
Okay.
So during COVID was when this renaissance of Michael Burton started, right? So up until the beginning of COVID, when COVID hit, like I was 120 something kilos. Was still smoking. I was drinking 3-4 times a week. I was doing drugs most of the time. I was going to sleep, hoping, just praying that I didn't wake up the next day. COVID came along, and I think COVID did different things for different people.
Yeah.
You had people, so I categorized them in three, and you had the drunks, you had the chunks, and you had the hunks. And I went from a drunk chunk to a hunk. Like, that was it. Like, I found running again. I ran as a kid, did athletics for years and years, and I found running again. And I started to just run, and exercise became my, how would you call it, like my mindfulness.
Yeah.
And it started with 5Ks, and it went to 10Ks, and then I ran a half marathon, and it just snowballed. And then I had the opportunity to move back home. I'd lost my job in the UK because of COVID. I said, great, unreal, I'll get back home. Didn't have a car, had to cycle everywhere, was by the sea, started sea swimming. And it was just that connection back with nature that I just needed. I needed to be back here. I didn't need to be over there in that concrete jungle. And then I was like, I'm going to do an Ironman. So I was like, Grant, do an Ironman. And it was like, I plowed myself into the Ironman. Like, really, like, plowed myself into it. Like, and no excuses for this one, actually, to be completely honest. Like, I barely took it seriously. And then 6 weeks out, like, my Achilles just completely went. Couldn't really do anything. And my coach was like, you shouldn't really go and do this. And I was like, no, I'm fucking doing it. Like, you can swear on this, I hope.
Yeah, you can swear all you want, don't worry about that.
But I was like, I'm fucking doing it. And I went and I did it and I achieved it. And I came back home. I remember being in my room, in my family home, and I was just bawling, crying. I just didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't leave the room for like 3-4 days. And I had achieved something that I had put so much into. And I was like, I expected on that journey of that Ironman to find something, to unleash something else in myself, to find a new pathway, it was just going to fix me. And it didn't. And I remember my mum came in and it was like, what is wrong with you? Like, I kind of said something snarky. I went upstairs and I was just in tears. I was just broken. And then I was like, right, okay, I've talked to friends, I've opened up to them, I've got fit, I've curbed most of my habits. I'm like, do you know what I mean? I'm in a good place. And I was like, none of this, I'm still feeling crap. I still have these days where it's just horrific. It's like, I go and I started going to therapy and stuff like that and getting professional help.
Well, you've kind of answered the question that I was going to ask, which was, do you think that your mental health was so low because your physical health was not in great order at the time, but you've just stated there that you got in physical shape, the best shape of your life, probably the fittest you are.
Yeah, and I suppose exercise is a distraction for mental health. It's like, if you can get out and walk, or you can get out and exercise, you can get into the sea, they're all distractions, and they're great distractions, right? And if you are in a bad place, go and do that stuff. Like, go and do it. Like, there's a really good book called Lost Connection, right? And it talks about people being on different medication for depression and stuff like that. And look, some people need to be on medication. I was on medication and I decided this isn't for me. Like, I'm on medication, right? But I still drink all the time. I'm still unhealthy. I'm still smoking. I'm still doing it. Like, I need to get all that stuff fixed first before I go on medication. So I just came off it, went about doing all that sort of stuff, and got myself in shape and got myself sorted out. And I didn't need the medication then. But there were still unresolved issues, like different trauma and stuff like that I just needed to work out.
Well, your medication basically was the drinking drugs for a time being till it didn't work.
Yeah, well, I was on medication while I was still doing that stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
So, would you say that like if it was what comes first, like your physical health or your mental health, it's kind of like, okay, you can use...
They're so intertwined.
Yeah.
They're so intertwined. And the other thing is, like, we keep saying, like, mental health. but we use physical fitness. Like the terminology around mental health needs to change. It's not something where it's like health is like, oh, you're in good health. It means you're good. It's like it's physical and mental fitness, because you need to be able to build your mentality and your ability to be resilient and stuff like that. That's fitness. And your fitness goes up and down. You're going to have waves for everybody. Your physical fitness goes up and down. Your mental fitness goes up and down. It's not like mental health makes it seem like, oh, well, I had bad mental health, now I have good mental health.
Yeah.
No, that's not,
Yeah, like
that's not how it works.
It's an off-on switch.
It's like an off-on switch. Oh, you're fixed now. It's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always going to have struggles like that. But it's, okay, if I can go, all right, well, 4 years ago, I'm feeling real shit now, but 4 years ago, I would have went on a 4-day bender down Bray, being up all hours, like doing rollovers, spending hundreds. If I can go, I'm not feeling too good, but I used to that, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a walk with my dog. I'm going to go sit on the couch and have a cuddle with my dog, or I'm going to go for get into the sea. If you can, that's what it's about. Like, it's about being able to catch yourself before you completely spiral out of control.
So do you think having awareness around your thoughts and your behaviours is key to be able to combat that?
Like, so I went through CBT, and I can't speak highly enough about that. And then I obviously went through therapy as well. And I still, like...
Tell me a little bit about what you learned going through CBT and therapy.
So CBT is great because it allows you... So therapy, I suppose, goes to the root cause. Like, what is the actual root cause of the issues that you're having? CBT, it kind of meets in the middle where it goes, okay, it acknowledges the fact that you're having those issues and what the root cause is, but it then teaches you how to deal with them. Yeah. So, you know, I'm feeling really anxious. Okay, well, what is it that I can do? What are the different techniques? Why am I feeling anxious? And being able to try and, if you think of it like an electric circuit, right? And a really negative thought can just be on a loop. Yeah. It's just a continuous one. And it's a way to just break that circuit and kind of get out of it.
How would you break it?
So I do a variety of different things. People do lots of, like, people...
Different for each person.
Different for each person. When I was back home, I just loved going for a walk with the dog. It was just a complete reset. Your dog, right? Like, your dog doesn't know what's going on in your life. And doesn't care. It just wants to love you and, like, do you know what I mean? Give you affection, right? I like getting into the sea because it's a complete system reset. It's that shock of cold water and the blood going to your head and everything about it. I like doing breath work. So I like doing meditation. Like, all those sort of things, stuff to control the body, bring it back down, ground it. Just getting out into a wood or a forest or somewhere for a walk is just completely just grounds you. Like, it brings you back to baseline. Yeah,
I remember hearing a really funny quote, and it was like you can't if you're anxious, like, you're not gonna outthink anxiousness by thinking more. You have to, you know, use your body. And it's like, he used the analogy, it was like trying to solve a cocaine addiction by sniffing coke, basically. It's
literally, and then, like, you see a lot of things around it. So I've done like a mental health first aider course, and I'm going to do other ones, but it's about bringing people, like, say if you're having a panic attack, right? It's about showing the person, like, different things around them. So, like, you know, an inanimate object, touch it, feel it. What are the sensations around it? Yeah. All those different things.
Getting out of your head and actually just being, not thinking about the future and thinking about what's actually in front of you and stuff like that.
It's about taking the thought away onto different things.
And that obviously takes time as well.
Yeah, it does.
And that's obviously the techniques for when you're feeling anxious or when you're feeling low. What about the root cause through therapy?
Yeah, so like my root cause is I suppose a timeline of things. For me personally. So, like, my biological dad, like, pissed off when I was 2, kind of then came back into my life when I was like 4 or 5, up until I was around like the kind of 11 mark. But I lived with my grandparents from then. That's why my granddad was literally my best friend, right? Yeah. He was there. He wasn't going anywhere.
And he passed away from cancer.
He passed away from cancer when I was 8. So I lost him when I was 8.
And he was your father figure?
he was my father figure along with my stepdad, right?
Yeah, okay.
Who came into my life when I was about 3 or 4, right? But so I lost him at 8, and then at 11, 11 years old, I was supposed to be picked up from school in Cronin's by my biological dad. Standing out in the rain, I just remember it so vividly. Standing out in the rain, 20, 30, 40 minutes, rang my mum, and she said to go down to the office. So I went down to the office, and I can't remember the name of the lady in the office, but anyway, mum just said, go down, get the bus, get yourself home. 3 or 4 weeks after that, found that he'd moved to a completely different country. So that was 11.
What age are you? 11.
11 years old. And then 1 year later, I was 12, and my grandparents of my stepfather, who had pretty much been my grandparents since I could remember, died in a horrific car accident. So they were coming back from Ireland after spending the summer in Ireland. These lads, these joyriders, somewhere, I think it was around Manchester, or maybe it was in Wales, but were getting in a police chase, and they came down the wrong side of the motorway and drove them straight on. So that was another father figure, another set of people gone out of life. And then because of that, my stepfather just, went into the depths of depression, I would say, and couldn't really cope. Became a recluse, would drink quite often. I wasn't helping the situation as I got into my later teens, because I was looking at him being like, he should be doing this, and just this resentment built, and that relationship broke down. But we're on the way to fixing that, I think, which is good, which is nice. But all of those things are accumulation of what I felt was not good enough. And it comes back to that thing, it's like, I'm setting these goals, but I don't feel like I'm good enough, so I'm giving myself that out. Because a kid can't, and this is what my therapist kind of outlined to me, is like, a kid can't distinguish between someone dying and someone leaving.
Yeah. It's
Because
still loss.
It's the loss. It's all loss to
Still
them.
loss, yeah.
And for me, it was like people walking out, and they're walking out because I'm not good enough. And it's just like that became a snowball effect. And no matter, I can't say this enough, my mum is unbelievable. I fucking love my mum. She's unreal, and she did a great job, right? But it's so hard for a kid it's so hard for a kid to comprehend that, or to take it in, to see the wood for the trees, which is that I have this mum who's fucking unreal. But I'm looking at my dad, and I'm going, why doesn't he be like that towards me? Instead of looking at how great my mum was, I was looking at that. And then there's also the scenario that, like, I think he would be open and honest, and he didn't deal with the situation well. He didn't talk about it. He became a recluse. He removed himself kind of from family situations, went to drink. Hey, presto, I turn 16, 17. What do? Yeah. It's my problem. I'm not going to talk about it. Turn to drink, turn to drugs, and, monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah. Like, how long would you say that it's took you? Because obviously, like, even just speaking to you there, like, the awareness of all of this, like, it's a long stretch of time from, like, the person who is, mentally low, who's turning to drinking drugs, to then someone who is going out for a 5K, someone who's doing an Ironman, someone who's taking on another challenge, and also someone who is very aware of, the traumas of your life.
Yeah.
And being able to cope with them when they arise.
Yeah.
Like what is the timeline there for you figuring all this out? And I'm just asking, because let's say there's someone listening to this who is in a position where you were, where they're probably at their lowest, probably suicidal thoughts, depths of depression. Like, for them to get out of this, like, the actionable steps, everything. Like, for you, what would be your advice?
For me, like, my thing is to keep it simple. So this is so funny, like, so I'm dyslexic and dyspraxic, right? And a trait that dyslexic and dyspraxic people have is that they're really good at hiding things. So I went back to my secondary school and talked to the principal, and the principal was like, I would have never known that you were suffering when you were in school. But I remember going to see, like, the counsellor in, like, 5th year, and she was kind of talking to me and asked me about my background and stuff, and I was telling her about my background, and she goes, that's interesting. I think you should go to therapy, right? So she said to my mum, I think he should probably go to therapy because of, you know, literally what I laid out there. It's like grandfather, da da da. And I went to therapy, and by therapy session 5, I'd convinced the therapist that there was nothing wrong with me, and my mum came to pick me up when I was out cutting the grass for her. Like, I was that good. I literally was that good at hiding it. No one had a clue. And then even when I got to like 18, 19, 20, 21, like I kind of told friends at different stages, but until I told them, no notion. Like when I put up a video after the Ironman, where I just felt, that was the first video I ever put up about like feeling down and stuff. A friend who I'd been friends with since first year of school, like, and I hadn't told him, right? But he was like, I had no idea. Like, I would have never had any idea that you were like suffering.
Yeah. Do you think, and this is an interesting question because I see this all the time, that it's easier to put stuff like that up on social media than it is to be vulnerable in front of a friend who you've known for years and say,
And sorry, to go back to your original question there, which I don't think I answered, I think I just rambled on about it, but the steps, I suppose, right? The steps. First one for me was to talk to friends.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't go to therapy until I was 24. So I talked to friends when I was like 20, 21. And then when it got to COVID, when it was 23, I talked to friends again.
And was this when you were continually drinking and going out in session as well?
So like, they had an idea that I had struggled in the past, but I didn't make it out that like I was struggling then. And it was only when I got to like 23, when COVID hit, that I was like, I'm actually really struggling like now. And they helped so much. Like I was living in a house with 4 of the lads over in London, and couldn't do anything. We could only mix with our circle. So we started eating really clean. We started doing that. So it was like really step by step. And it was like, okay, so this door's opened. I'm going to go through this door. And then I'm going to figure out what's in this room. And it's going to take some time. And then, okay, so I've gone through this. And now I'm reading some books, or I'm listening to some podcasts that talk about like mindset, or that talk about like the lost connections, or like these different things. Okay, well, okay, the suggestion for that is, okay, maybe I go do this, and this might be therapy or whatever it is. And it was really, really gradual. It was like baby steps.
So do you think the first step for someone who is in that kind of hole right now is to expose themselves to things that are relevant to how they're feeling, essentially?
Yeah, like read books, listen to podcasts, exercise. Like
it's funny though, because it's like the thing that's going to help you the most is the thing you probably find hardest to do when you're feeling like that.
Yeah. But that's where discipline comes into it. Like the other thing about it is like I have a gripe with motivation. Yeah. I think motivation is bullshit. So like, motivation isn't a thing. And like, I still tag motivation in some of my posts. I'm like, stop tagging motivation. Like, it's not a thing. It shouldn't exist. It's like, motivation is not going to get you fucking anywhere.
No, because you're not going to be motivated when your mental health is that
and
low.
You're also not going to be motivated every day. If you're scrolling on social media, hoping for motivation by David Goggins, or I don't know, Aiden is running, or someone like that. Like, if that's what you're hoping for every day, good luck. You just need to, sometimes you just need to pull up your socks and do it.
So what do you think then drives you now for this big challenge that you have ahead for you? If you're not motivated for it, what is it that gets you to do it?
Discipline. I've set myself a goal. I want to achieve something. That's what it is. And like, there is motivation within it, right?
Yeah.
But motivation is not going to get me to the start line.
But do you think the motivation it's a purpose for you, because you're not even doing it for you? Well, you are doing it for you to a sense, obviously.
You know what?
But
it's funny you say that, because I am literally about to put up a post about what I'm doing it for, and I probably did 32 more for me. This is not for me. I'm doing this for other people. This is to show the person in the dark place that in 4 years I went from smoking 20 cigarettes a day, drinking all the time, and I'm achieving this. Or to inspire young people to talk about the feelings that they have, whether that's young boys, young girls. I'm doing this for other people. I'm doing it for the people who can't walk, or the people who might never walk. That's what I'm doing it for.
Well, it's the thing, like, you doing it, you doing it for other people and helping other people helps yourself.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to mess up this quote, isn't it? It's like, I'll look after me so I can look after you, and you look after you so you can look after me.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, and the other thing that I feel like so many of us have lost is like community and connection. There's like so much of that, like, especially in London, like you might go through a whole day and have no actual conversation with people. And also you might have a scenario where you bump into someone and instead of going, oh, sorry, you know, like whatever, you get like a rude remark and like you get the head off you.
Well, you're going from being in Yang, really, aren't you? Like going from like, if you would walk down the village, someone's gonna put their head up, smile and say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
To kind of in London where it's known that everyone just looks down the whole time
But, like,
they're there.
even like some people will be surprised when you smile at them and then
Yeah.
you smile and it's like,
Why do you think that is? Is it because there's just more lunatics in the city, so people
too many
don't?
people on phones, like,
Yeah, yeah.
too many people listening to shite.
But it's always like in like little small rural villages, like you'll get the biggest hello, the biggest smile off someone.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's as you because you don't really run into people as much, and then if you do it in the city, it's like, all right, this lad needs to stay away from me. There's something wrong with him because he's smiling.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's
Yeah.
so bizarre. It's like one of the things that I want to be able to bring with whatever business that I set up in the future is
Connection.
that connection,
Yeah.
community. It's that's what I want.
Because it's the strangest thing in the world. It's like you're surrounded by more people than you probably ever have before, but more people in cities feel lonelier than ever.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is
like,
bizarre.
Yeah, you're literally you. What is it that your man Chris, who has the podcast, says? I can't remember his second name. He's a really, really good podcast, but he's like, you've never been more connected in your life, but less connected.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, everyone is connected via social media and all this sort of stuff, but no one talks to each other. It's like,
Do you
fuck it.
think, so like if you were to set up things like that in the future, like, and creating connection, how would you do that?
It's a good question. I think for me, what I want to do with the business that I want to set up is literally, I want it to be a fully functioning farm that produces crop that goes to the coffee shop or the cafe which is on the farm. I want a gym that's there that doesn't have shitloads of people in it, but people that show up every morning to do the class. I want to have little studios of creative people or people who want to rent space because they're working from home, but they don't want to work from home anymore because they want to have interaction with people. That's what I want to be. I want to have a social enterprise where we take kids from disadvantaged areas or kids that have just had it rough or kids that have suffered with mental health and allow them to stack skills on top of each other, like grow crops or pottery or art or writing or gym or like all these different things. That's what I want to build.
You had a really good post up the other day that I was watching, and it was on putting limitations on yourself.
Yeah.
For someone who would want to do some of the things that you've already achieved, whether it's, you know, a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, a marathon, an Ironman, what you're about to put yourself under next, but they're like, oh, I couldn't do that, that's not for me, or I'm not that fit person, or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for them?
Start. Like, what's that? Like, there's another quote. It's like, what if it turned out better than you could ever imagine? What if it did?
What do you remember the start of your journey to this in terms of like, it was during COVID, right?
Yeah.
And like, what was it? Was it just you saying, you know, fuck it, I'm going to go out for a walk today, I'm going to go out for a
5K
run?
nomination.
Ah, yeah.
Where everyone nominated, and then it was me.
The pressure was put on you then.
It was me, Davo, Sutto, and Ed living in a house, and it became competitive between me, Sutto, and Davo, who could do the best 5K. And that 5K became 10K, and I'm competitive as a fuck. I don't want anyone having anything over me. It was just that, and it just got bigger, and then that was it. Like, my advice to them is like, what have you got to lose? Like, so I put up a post again today, I don't know if you saw it, right? And it was around taking a shot in life. And it's like, people are so afraid to take a shot or to try something because they're afraid of what other people are going to say when they fail, right? And it goes back to me, like, right? I got the idea from that, right? But what if you got to 70, 80, 90 years old and you never did anything that you said you wanted to do? You're just going to be lying there regretting it.
Yeah.
Like, I've just gone through my life and go, okay, in 5 years' time, I'd like to have seen all these places, and I'd like to have done this. And in 10 years' time after that, I'd like a family, and I'd like to have a business. And I'm just going, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And it might not work out. It might not stay that way. I might do completely different things.
Well, your goals can change over time,
Goals
all
can
the
change
time.
over time. But it's like, you get one crack at the whip. Like, was it 2015 Christmas? I had put my body through so much turmoil that I got internal bleeding from taking painkillers. I was working all these jobs, right? I was taking painkillers, 3, 4 at a time, 10, 12 throughout the day, and I got a stomach ulcer, and it popped. And on Christmas Day, I went to the hospital, and I pretty much should have died. Like, my heart was gone, right? And my mum said that she brought me into the hospital, and they were just pumping blood and everything to me, and she had to just step back and watch her kids, right? And after that, I got out of the hospital, I went on a bender, I went back into hospital, and it's only now that I look back at that and go, well, I tried to take my life, I nearly died, I have one crack at the whip. I'm a cat that's gone through all his lives. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm on my last one. It's like the other quote from Joe Rogan is like, men have 2 lives. The first one is whatever, and the second one is when they realise they only have one.
Yeah.
It's like, I've realised that I only have one.
What is it? They die quiet lives of desperation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, the thing is, you've gone through the extreme pain of what you went through and come out the other side saying, okay, I don't want to waste another moment.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people get stuck in that, I don't really like my life, but it's not that bad, and they're kind of comfortably numb, and then they don't.
That's the worst thing in the world. It's like the sum of lost fallacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like my job's not great, but it's
not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's like,
My relationship isn't great, but it's not that bad. At least I'm not alone.
yeah. It's like, that
Yeah.
to me now, mind-boggling. Can't get my head around that.
Yeah, I'm out of shape and I feel uncomfortable when I'm out, but it's not as bad as going to the gym and having to train.
Yeah. Like, it's just, I can't wrap my head around that, actually. It's like,
Well, they need of all them people, like, it would be better off if their situation was a little bit worse, because it would probably drive them into action then.
Yeah. That's such a good point. My situation was so
dire.
bad
Yeah.
that the pain
Yeah.
of that current existence was worse than changing.
The pain of staying the same was far worse than the pain of change. So you're driven into action then.
Yeah, literally, that was pretty much it. Like,
Yeah.
when you're going to bed, I tried to take my life in 2014, 2015, and I couldn't bring myself to do that.
Yeah.
But I went to bed every night just being
Wanting.
like, please, this would be so much better if I just never woke up. That is a shit place to be. If you're lying in a house with 3 of your mates and they have no idea that you're going to bed, just going, please, just don't wake up tomorrow.
One last question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to instill one piece of advice into your younger self now, into your younger self's brain, what advice would you give?
That's a really good question. It would probably have empathy.
Explain that for me.
Yeah, so I think I'm a firm believer that we should remove the word should, okay? You should be doing this. You should be doing that job. You should. I, as a teenager, looked at my father and say, he should be doing this, and he should be, and I felt so much resentment. And by the end of it, I had no empathy for the fact that his parents literally were pulmonarated, and my grandparents as well, were pulmonarated in a fucking car accident. Because I thought he should be doing something else. and I had no empathy for that. Do you know what? It's literally a couple of days ago when I came home, because we don't have a great relationship. We just don't,
Yeah.
right? But I've been, look, I've been so hard on him for how he's been towards me, right? And at the end of the day, I cannot comprehend what he went through. There is not one thing that I can comprehend that he did. Like, I can't comprehend what he actually went through mentally. He probably can't comprehend what I went through because he's probably looking at me going, you had a pretty nice life, like a middle class living, nothing you ever didn't need, yada, yada, yada.
You should be happier.
You should be happier. Like, you shouldn't be giving me so much grief. You shouldn't be drinking all the time, being surly and aggressive towards me, right? That's what he's probably on the same thing, right? But I look back at it, and I actually, it was his birthday on Friday, on Thursday, and I came home on Friday, Thursday evening, I saw him on Friday. And the first thing I said to him was like, I'm so proud of you. I'm sorry for being a prick for my whole teenage years. I'm proud to call you my dad, and thanks for always being there. I know we've not seen eye to eye, but there's lots of time for us to figure this out. And that's all I said, and he said thank you. And that's fine.
A difficult thing to say, by the way, as well, I'd imagine. Like the vulnerability of saying it.
I cannot comprehend what he went through. There's not one bit of me that can feel the pain that he felt. Like, they were my grandparents, and I loved them to bits, and it was shit. But it's way shitter for him.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't put the should on him.
Yeah.
He should have been doing something.
Well, that's
He dealt with it how he dealt with it, and we can't go back in time and change it.
like in terms of that advice, you can literally take it through all walks of life. Like, people judge people because, oh, he's overweight, or they say he's lazy, or they say he's this, he's that, and he should do this or he should do that, but they have no idea what that person could be going through mentally, what they've gone through in their past, what trauma they've gone through, all that stuff. So to have more empathy for everyone in terms of that, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, and it's something I'm shit with empathy.
Yeah.
Like, I need to get better at it.
Yeah.
I don't have great empathy, but it's something that I wish I had more of.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. If you like that episode and you want to see more content like this, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one.